Good afternoon, huh, Buns? This is Mixed Books to you, coming to you today with a new review for the book called Fear of Dying by Miss Erica Jong. The publication date is September 2015. The amount of pages in the book are 273. It was an Oprah referral from O's magazine, and Miss Erica actually gives Oprah a shout out in the book on page 203, so you can check that out as well. The price of the book is $26.99. However, I choose to use my local library unless I love the book, and I think this is one that I not think, but I have purchased it. It's actually on its way to me. So I purchased my book on Amazon, and I think I paid like $14.99 for it. So it should be on its way shortly. It was a really good book, and it's something that you will probably want on your shelves to share while the person's at your house, but not to take away. But it's a nice book for you to share with your family and friends. It's just a book about life. All right, this was my first time actually reading a book by Miss Erica. However, in reading the jacket of the book, it says that she is a best-selling author and has been for quite a while. And in reading this book, I actually understand why. She does have another book called Fear of Flying, and I will be getting that as well. I don't know if I'll actually review the book, but I know I will be reading it just by what I actually read with this book. So let's just get into the book review. My points. What was the story about? Well, basically, what was the book about? The book was about an older woman by the name of Vanessa and her growing older and actually the value of her life and actually the people that are around her and how she feels they are an asset to her and just growing old and being comfortable in growing old. Who were the main characters? Vanessa is the main character, which the book is actually centered around Miss Vanessa. However, there are her ailing parents, her ailing husband, who is 20 years her senior, her pregnant daughter, Galinda, as well as three sisters, and her best friend, which is Isadora, and I love Isadora. Were the characters credible? The characters could be any of us. I guess once you get to that certain point in your life, you start to think about what's going to happen. I know in my 20s, I wasn't really worried about life insurance. So now, I have people close to me that have passed, and my friends have lost some of their parents. So it's something that we all need to think about, and especially I see constantly on my Twitter and on my Instagram pages where people have to put up GoFundMe accounts. Not to say that that's a bad thing if you do need the help and you have people that are in your life that's wanting to do that. But I do know I want my kids and my family. I just want everybody to be able to be functional after, and life insurance is something that's very important. I know that's totally off the subject, but that was something that I thought about in reading it as well. What did the main characters do in the story? Miss Vanessa and her husband gain an appreciation for life, and also the power of forgiveness. And it's a lot of things that we do to each other and we feel like, oh, it's nothing. But if you actually ask the person who has said that you hurt them, the action that you did was probably more dramatic than what you actually think you did. So she did in the book go over forgiveness and just how you can get along with family and friends and just coexist until it comes to the point of your death. Did the main characters run into any problems? Vanessa, as I stated, she has ailing parents as well as her husband. I know at one point in the book both parents were ill as well as her husband, and she also had her pregnant daughter. And I think that it's not hilarious, but I remember my sister and myself being pregnant at the same time, and I went into labor first, and then she went into labor, and it was just hilarious because my mom was calling my daddy, was like Paula and Carla and Laban at the same time. He said, "What the hell you calling me for? I'm not a doctor. That's what we pay the doctors for." But she was stretched very thin because normally when you are in a marriage, you have, when something does happen, you have your husband or whoever your companion is at that time. They're normally taking up the slack, and he wasn't able to do that because he was actually ill himself. And that's another thing that you think about when you get older. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's great being single," but the single life is not as great as people try to portray it to be, because you do get sick, and you do have, like my father say, you do want to have that person that'll be able to wipe you behind just in case something does happen. And everybody wants to be with somebody. You might not want to be bothered, because I know I don't like being bothered all the time, but I mean, when you with someone, you have no other choice but to be bothered. That you have to take the good with the bad. It's actually in the vows, for better or for worse. So that was one thing that I did. Well, the problems that she encountered. The adventures were Vanessa visited and revisited her past events in her life. She did go through a lot of things when she was younger. Being an actress, she was an actress, and she goes through that phases that a lot of actresses that you hear them talk on television, or if you hear them in interviews, or if they actually have an interview like in an actual magazine, a lot of them have that fear of getting older because they don't want to play that older part. And that's what one of her issues was. I remember in The First Wives Club, there's one of my favorite movies, but Goldie Hawn she tried to do everything to reverse the aging and not embracing it, but once she saw that she embraced it, being older is not as bad as people think it is, because I'm 34 now, and I used to call 34 old when I was 15. So we live and we learn. Who were your favorite characters in the book? Vanessa's mother was one of my favorite characters. Asher, who is her husband. Isidore is her best friend. Her mother reminded me of my grandmother. I call my grandmother Shorty, and she is what you always say, a fire pistol. Whatever she thinks, she says, and she doesn't care how you receive it. She's 95 years old, and she's going to say it. She's Medea without a pistol, is what I say. All right, so that's how I could relate to, or that's why her mother was one of my favorite characters in the book, because she reminded me of my grandmother. Asher, what I liked about him is that even though Vanessa saw herself getting older, he didn't. And men do that all the time, because most men, if you ask, they hate makeup. But women, we don't wear makeup for them. We wear makeup for ourselves to make ourselves look pretty. But they prefer the no lip gloss. They like it, but they prefer not. They think that you're beautiful without it. And it was told to me years ago that you only see that flaw. I don't see that flaw. So he loved Miss Vanessa regardless of what she had on. He didn't care about the age difference, because he was, like I stated, 20 years older than her. So he loved her unconditionally. And her friend Isidore is basically me, and that's why I love her, because she is that no nonsense friend, and she is going to tell you how it is. No, we really don't care how you receive it, but we're going to tell you the truth no matter what, and make you think about your actual decisions before just acting on it. I am good for giving out good advice, but my tolerance level is low, so I'm working on that as well. And my personal experiences is the next topic. Could you relate to any of the characters in the story? Vanessa had an abortion when she was younger due to some events that happened in her life, so I could relate to that. Have you ever done or felt some of the things that the characters did? I do think of death a lot, like I stated previously, because a lot of my friends have lost loved ones. I recently, like I said before in one of my other videos, I lost my uncle this year, and he was one of my favorite uncles. So, what the older you get, the more people leave your life. And I know it's not like a definite leave that you will see that person later on in life, but I mean, I guess it's just a matter of dealing with loss. So, and my parents are still married after over 45 years of marriage, and both parents are still alive. And I'm one of my friends that very few of my friends have both parents that are living. So that's something that I think about all the time. And I did have someone who is close to me, who I was close to her father, and we lost him a few years back, and I took that hard. So, you know, I, it's just thinking about death and, process and living. You can't really prepare for it. If a person is sick, I know, you can kind of prepare yourself, but you never really know how you'll react once everything actually happens. My opinion, did you like the book? I actually did love the book, and I recommended it to several friends and coworkers. I actually purchased it as well for another one of my old coworkers. What was your favorite part of the book? Okay, so I'm going to say that I did inform you all that I do not like reading books that have, sex in them. So, Ms. Vanessa sneaked it in on me. And it was a good sneak in. It was hilarious. I'm not going to give away too much of it, but my favorite part of the book was Ms. Vanessa. She was feeling a little lonely in the sex area, and her husband is older. I'm sorry, my phone is dying. Her husband is older, so she sought the internet. It was a website called Zipless, and that's where you actually hook up with people. And she put a profile out there to get potential people to. She wanted to get us some, y'all. So she put a profile out there to try to get someone and try to attract someone and try. She was just trying to keep herself. She felt like having sex would, I guess, keep her younger, and she didn't feel like her husband was able to satisfy her in that area, so she sought outside. And what she did was she decided to go on Zipless, and she put up the profile. When she put up the profile, she got a few hits. But one man in particular, he caught her eye and told her he wanted to come for a hookup. So they met up at a local hotel, and at this hotel they sat down like in the bar area, and they had a drink and just got semi acquainted, I guess, enough for them to go upstairs to the room. So they end up going upstairs to the room, and he told her he was stepping in the room just to change for a second. She sat down on the couch, and she was getting, I guess, relaxed, and I don't think she took off any clothes. I can't remember, but I don't think she took off any clothes. But what happened was he walked out of the back room with like a dominatrix thing on, and it scared the bejesus out of her. That was hilarious to me. I cried laughing, and I did take a long time to read this book because a lot of the things were educating me, and they were hitting home to some of the things that I have thought about or know I will eventually go through once I get older, and I do pray that I do get older. But that was the funniest part, and she ran out that room. She was like, "What do you have on?" She was not there. She was not featuring him or his dominatrix outfit. She wasn't going for it. So that was my favorite part. Do you have a least favorite part of the book? Nothing. Miss Erica, you did your thing when you wrote this book. You took your time. The detail that you have in all of the scenes, like it's like you were there. At the end of the book, her husband asked her go to India, and that's where she opens herself up to life and just appreciates everything that she has been through, and the future. She says they he says that he knows eventually he will die one day, but his only hope is, he stated that he never believed in reincarnation, but since he met her, he wants to be reincarnated only if he's able to be with her. And I cried on that part. That's really sweet, for someone to want to still be with you after the afterlife. Because I know if I get up to heaven and I see 2 Chainz, I'm gonna say no. I'm sorry. I lie. Okay, but that's a sweet gesture for someone who you are married to tell you. So that was beautiful to me. If you could change anything, would you change anything? Nothing at all. I would leave everything exactly the same. Like I stated, it was a great book. What type of person would like to read this book? I don't ever say that there is a certain type of person, and you'll hear that in every review. I read all type of books, so I will never say that a person won't read the book. And now I will be reading a few quotes from the book that actually just touched me. So I will allow them to touch you and hope they bless you as well. One of the quotes was, "It gets harder and harder to deny your own death. Do we hold on to our parents, or are we holding on to our status as a child who is immune from death?" And I think that's one of the things that I touched on earlier when I say I always tell my parents, like, I want to go before you all go, because I don't think that I could take it. And I know I've had a conversation with a friend who has lost both of her parents, and that's one thing she's like, don't ever say that, because I said that and you do get over it. It's hard, and she thinks about them constantly, but it's something that you never get over, but you just have to basically deal with it. The next quote is, "Our parents make us uncomfortable because they remind us of their fate, and we make them uncomfortable because we remind them of what they used to be." So that's something, I guess, when our parents tell us, well, now that I am a parent, I see that the things that my parents told me in the past was things that they tried to prevent us, well, not us, but tried to prevent me from going through the things that they went through. Okay, the next one is, "Why must we parade our charity in public when true charity is anonymous?" And I have never, and I tell people all the time, I've never been a fan of telling others what I've done for a person. That person knows. And in case they forget, it to me, it means that my act of kindness wasn't appreciated. And I really feel at the end of the day that God knew my heart, and he'll give me whatever he feels that I'm doing in that regard. So when you do a charity, you don't always, or you don't need to be seen. And I just feel that way. Like when people take pictures, that's just me. The next one is, "The only way to escape from pain is to join forces with your higher power. Get on your knees, humble yourself, ask for help. Unless you ask for help, help will never come. To be human is to be well run. Riot. The only way to happiness is to surrender. Surrender is peace. For most of my life, I wanted more. Nothing was ever enough. I was full of envy and resentment, and I thought everyone had more than I did. Now I know that the more and more obsession is a disease, a delusion. We all have enough, we just don't know it." And I am a firm believer of that as well. Being on Instagram, it's kind of a blessing and a curse at the same time. A blessing because, you get to see how others do live. But I know at some point, you can't get caught up in the hype, because there are a lot of people that I know personally that I follow on Instagram, and the life that they post on Instagram is very far-fetched from what they actually live. So don't get jealous of that car that you see that person having. Don't get jealous of that house. You just don't know the situation that they are in to even have and have acquired those things. So that's what I got from that. Next one is, "We have to be humble to remember who we are, stumbling humans." So humble yourself and always remember where you come from. Next, I love this. It says fear is a universal emotion that nearly everyone struggles with, I think. And I think that is true. Well, not I think, I know that is true for me because it's a lot of things like with my new job. It took me a lot to leave my old job. Once you get comfortable, it's hard to leave that. And the fear of unknown is what actually holds us back. All right, the next is you can't prepare yourself for death no matter how hard you imagine it. It will always affect you differently than you thought it would. So fear is useless. The next one is about money, and money affects all social classes, all ethnicities, basically everybody. So money may make the world go round, but it cannot cure family unhappiness or marital disappointment. So it's basically that money is not the end all, the be all, but a lot of people do assume that. The next one is I had needed sex so much I didn't realize it was different from love. And I think that is a lot of people nowadays don't know the difference between just sex and actually loving somebody or to make love. And that's what Miss Vanessa was searching for. Eventually, Asher was able to perform, and once he got his strength back, they did enjoy each other. So, the hookups, well, her thinking that she wanted that hookup wasn't what she really wanted. She thought she wanted sex, but it really was love that she was seeking. And the next is when I was younger, that I feared death. However, now that I'm older, I don't. The fear comes with the unknown. Once I became closer to God, I gained understanding, thus removing the fear, which is something that I think a lot of people may go through it as well. I know when I was younger, I was a bit fearful. I went to a play called Heaven Gates, Hell's Flames, and that was at Bethany. And that play got your mind right. Like, seriously, it just told you about all the things. There's no small sin. There's no little white lie. A lie is a lie. There is definitely a heaven and a hell. That person that you see that goes to church every day, they can end up in hell if they are not living their life according to God. It was just a lot that play taught me. So I did understand what she meant when she said that. As long as fear commands you, you will be trapped forever. And a lot of us, once again, we do fear the unknown, and we hate stepping out on faith, but it's something that has to be done in order for us to mature and to blossom. The next one is I believe that each mother should find her own way of mothering, that all advice we give on mothering is useless. True. What worked for one mother may not work for the next. I breastfed the first time, I couldn't breastfeed the next time. So you have to let people live their own lives and stop being so critical of how they do things for their children or with their children. The next one is you forgive your enemies and then the gods forgive you. And forgiveness is something, like I stated on some of my previous videos, something that I have been working on diligently. The act of forgiveness is something that a lot of people say that they forgive them, and you can forgive and don't forget, but I don't know. I can't say I'm still working on it. And I have one more quote that I wanted to read to you all. I'm sorry, I know it's going close to 25, but this was like my all-time favorite. It says, "Go not to the temple to put flowers upon the feet of God. First fill your own house with the fragrance of love. Go not to the temple to pray on bended knees. First bend down to lift someone who is down. Go not to the temple to ask for forgiveness for your sins. First forgive from your heart those who have sinned against you." And that right there, that says a lot about her entire book. Like I said, this book was eye-opening, and that is one of the reasons why I did purchase it. Not only did it give you a glimpse of, the processes of death and possibility of death because Astra was sick and he got better. But it's just everything that was in that book was life, and it's something that has happened. And if it hasn't happened to you, I guarantee you that it will. Because just as everyone has an alpha date, they also have an omega date. So once again, I would like to thank you all for watching Hun Buns, and please do not forget to thumbs up and subscribe, comment, and also refer a friend to my channel. I will be posting this tonight. Tonight is the date is 12/7/2015. I will not be a stranger. My email address, Instagram, and Twitter account will be listed in the description box below. I had one more thing to say. I'm trying to. Oh, my next book is by a Mr. Scott, and it's called Life. It was a free downloaded book. Yes, you can get free books. I do pay for them, but when they tell me it's free, I will accept a free book. I do have a free book that I downloaded. It was called Life by Mr. Scott. I cannot pronounce his first name, so I'm not going to butcher it. I'm going to actually try to contact him to see if he will be able to give me the correct pronunciation of his name, and then I will review it next Monday. And I promise you that I will begin doing it back every week. I love you guys for watching, and you all have a great night.